access main program grid.
You didn't say the magic word.
Please! What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. If you are, I hope that you leave a like on this video and that you'll subscribe or follow down below. It helps the channel immensely. Big tech censorship is something that is prevalent in every piece of social media we use, at least at some degree. Whether it's, open government controlled or government helpers like Facebook, Instagram, formerly Twitter, or networks that have to exist on the fringes. Gab, for example, BitChute, even Rumble in some cases has to deal with some level of big tech pushback, whether or not they bow to it or not. And now we've got an interesting bypass here because never, in a lot of people's opinion, has Americans been less free to say what they want to say. And this is through, search algorithm manipulation, through deboosting, through shadow banning, through all these things that most normal people would never need to know about. There's a whole dictionary of big tech censorship terminology now. And it looks like Justice Clarence Thomas is taking them on. So huge shout out to Clarence Thomas on all of this. Never before in the U.S. history have Americans been less free to see and say what they want. The blame goes mostly to social media giants like Facebook, YouTube, and Google that censor political views they don't like. But the tech giants' day of reckoning is near. Justice Clarence Thomas is taking them on. Phone companies like AT&T and Sprint can't shut down your account because of your political views. American Airlines can't refuse to sell you a ticket because you've questioned the coup lockdowns. Well, there are plenty of people on no-fly lists over things that they said. A hotel cannot deny you accommodation because you're a Republican. The law forbids it. The same ban against political discrimination should apply to social media platforms. Thomas has argued that big tech censorship since at least 2021, he's argued against it, saying that these companies should have to serve all customers just like phone companies, utilities, and public accommodations. I 100% agree. This is the fight that we need. This, in my opinion, is the most important political fight in the next 2 or 3 years, and has been for years before this. Sure, stopping, all of our garbage leaders from paying, giving every other country billions of dollars while we have plenty of homeless here is a thing. But tech censorship is public square censorship, and it's never been more obvious than it is right now. The U.S. Supreme Court announced Friday that it will rule on Florida and Texas state laws that prohibit tech giants from canceling users based on their political views. This could be massive. Expect Thomas to lead a majority of the justices to conclude that internet censorship is inconsistent with democracy and must be stopped. A high court ruling against censorship will deal a powerful blow against big tech tyranny, because once the Supreme Court rules on it, you can have this apply federally, or you can make this application happen in more states. Not a day too soon. Hallelujah. Right now, social media platforms freely censor, take down posts, deplatforming users whose views they don't like, even a former president of the United States, and burying information so it's impossible to find with Google. Big tech censorship affects far more people than when colleges silence dissent, or when workplaces and schools indoctrinate. Texas anti-censorship law is designed to protect the public against the loss of freedom. The law still allows the removal of items that are, spicy, but truly harmful stuff. To defend Texas's law, the state attorneys general specifically cited Thomas's argument. The Fifth Circuit Court upheld the law, deciding that corporations do not have the right to muzzle speech, but the 11th Circuit Court struck down a similar Florida law, arguing that big tech platforms have a First Amendment right to pick and choose views like a newspaper does. Well, see, that flies directly in the face of Section 230, which says that platforms that do not engage in editorial content, meaning publishing documents, publishing articles, get protection. The problem is they are acting as if they are a publisher by changing their algorithm to only promote views they agree with. It's the same thing. Now the Supreme Court is poised to resolve these conflicting outcomes. The court will decide who the First Amendment protects: the tech companies that claim they're like newspaper, or the millions of social media users. The smart money is on Thomas convincing a majority of the justices that democracy requires an uncensored internet. In a 2021 concurring opinion, Thomas suggested a role for Congress to provide a legislative fix, including changing Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. But Congress is unlikely to act as long as Democrats control either house. Well, that's because big tech censorship overwhelmingly supports one side of the aisle. Now, I don't want it to obviously swing to support the other side of the aisle. I just want it to be fair and balanced. Most Democrats in Congress are rooting for more censorship. They've become the anti-free speech party. Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat of Delaware, told tech executives during a 2020 Senate hearing that he wants them to censor any kinds of questioning about the climate. Senator Rich Blumenthal, Democrat of Connecticut, urged them to do more content modification and eliminate, quote, disinformation in future elections. Content moderation is obviously a euphemism for silencing opposition. In short, putting your fingers on the scale of, say, elections, in this case, as an example, to help make sure that you do everything you can to make sure people vote the way you want them to vote. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes explained that the way to test the truth out of any statement is to see if it survives the marketplace of ideas. Truth will prevail. Lousy ideas, falsehoods, and loser politicians like Joe Biden need censorship to survive. At the Supreme Court, Biden's Department of Justice is siding with big tech against the public's right to free expression. That's no surprise. Biden likely owes his 2020 election to big tech's rush to squash the New York Post's reporting on his son's laptop. Since taking office, Biden has erected a vast censorship operation with the White House, FBI, CDC, and government agencies colluding with big tech to limit what you see and what you can say. Well, that's exactly true. I mean, we saw this in the Twitter files, right? Now, the New York Post says, bravo, that Elon Musk's company X refuses. I don't think I believe that. If you want to talk about a company that actually refuses, it would be places like Rumble, probably BitChute, Odyssey, Gab. These are places that have a history of refusing. X does not, and Twitter does not. But that's neither here nor there. This is a monumental decision because it's going to back up. I mean, it could literally change the outcome for anybody who just wants to be heard, for anybody who wants to consume undoctored information, uncurated information, to really understand the truth. An uncensored internet, a Supreme Court ruling on this would go orders of magnitude further to get the conversation back in the open. That doesn't mean, what a lot of weirdos will say is, oh, this just means disinformation is going to run rampant. No, the best disinfectant for a bad idea is always and has always been sunlight, not to put it in the shadows where they can have their confirmation bias stroked by saying, well, what I'm about to tell you, they don't want you to know. And then look, I got banned. It's better to leave it out there and have people be able to address the ideas in the open. I mean, the fact that, again, this case involves laws in Texas that limit what content can be banned by social media platforms like X, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. The second is a similar anti-censorship law in Florida. I mean, this could change everything if they actually get it passed, because what you're going to see then is lawsuits against social media platforms, class action lawsuits. You're going to see discovery. You're going to see all sorts of stuff from that we would never have seen before, including ideas that you maybe disagree with. Think about what it's going to do for content creators. For example, ones that live on the fringes now who are banned off so many media platforms, maybe like Alex Jones or many others who, languish in the ether on the fringes after being banned from multiple platforms. they would have a legal precedent to be allowed back on the platforms. They would have, I mean, imagine that tomorrow. And then it gives Elon an out, right? Elon doesn't want to let Alex back on for personal reasons. We all know this. But if he says, well, I can't really, if you think about what this does to advertisers' boycotts, right? Advertisers, people like the ADL, they come and they want to boycott, right? Boycott advertisers. You're not doing enough to stop free, what we call hate speech. Well, now, like place like X or Rumble or anywhere else that's not a willing censor can say, look, we can't. This is the law. If you have a problem with it, take it up with the Supreme Court. And then advertisers can also say, it gives them an out and saying, when some clown shoes reporters like, hey, your ad appeared next to a quartering video. Do you also agree that Brie Larson is the queen of the world? And they stick a microphone in their face. They can just say, look, we can't control what content goes on platforms. If it's lawful, it's there. This is a rule that affects all platforms. So is your answer for us to just not advertise? This could be a monumental change, a monumental win for free speech, because I think there's really no arguing whether or not free speech applies, our First Amendment here in the United States anyway, applies to social media. It is the public square. There's no arguing it. They've tried to pretend it wasn't for a long time, like it's just some tiny little, it's just some company. No. Twitter, X, Facebook, YouTube, all these platforms, they are the public square, and it's time the First Amendment starts protecting us there. Go Clarence.